Sometimes you just need a good mid-ranger to have your back. The 2017 update to the Galaxy J7 series is out, and it looks like a strong contender for the job. However, last year's model is still out and kicking. Is the new update really worth the bump in price? I'm Angie for GSM Arena, and this is our Galaxy J7 2017 review. Design-wise, the J7 2017 has bumped up a class compared to last year's model. Its premium aluminum unibody feels comfortable and solid in hand. There's no camera bump, and I'm loving the matte back, despite the fact that it's a fingerprint magnet. The always-on fingerprint reader is a welcome addition too. As confirmed by the IP54 rating, there's an enhanced resistance to dust and splashes. Sadly, Samsung also abstained from upgrading the port to a USB-C. Thankfully, it still has a headphone jack. Samsung placed the J7 speaker in an unusual spot. It works well to prevent accidental muffling in landscape orientation, but in other positions, we often covered it up without noticing. The J7 has a single SIM version and a dual SIM. The latter doesn't require you to ditch the microSD card. The base storage is far from enough, so you're really going to need it a lot sooner than you think. All that being said, the biggest upgrade has to be the screen. The J7 really upped its game here. The AMOLED display now has a 1080p resolution and offers great contrast and high brightness for those sunny, scorching days. The phone also features Samsung's always-on display, but this convenience comes at the cost of reduced battery life. Without the feature, the J7's endurance rating caps out at an amazing 108 hours. This is thanks to a really power-efficient chipset and a relatively large battery. With always-on enabled, the endurance falls down to 72 hours, which, while still good, is a noticeable drop. Of course, that's an extreme case, as the always-on display will usually drastically dim itself if you put it away. While the chipset is last year's model, it can handle heavy loads surprisingly well, and the phone was quite responsive. That said, we're surprised that Samsung didn't provide the option to play games on lower resolutions. Although gaming engines have improved a lot and most games optimize graphics automatically, you might run the risk of a slowdown with more obscure, graphics-heavy titles. The J7 2017 features Nougat 7.1. The UI has been upgraded, and it clearly looks related to the S8. The icons have been updated, there's an online library of themes at your disposal, and of course, there's that awesome multitasking. The J7 also includes an FM radio, perhaps to always allow you access to music despite the meager storage. For a mid-ranger, the J7 has a solid primary camera. It uses the same sensor as last year's, but it now sits behind a brighter f1.7 lens. It makes good shots for a mid-range device. There is enough detail and colors are accurate, if slightly toned down. There's not a lot of noise, though we could spot the noise suppression slip up around edges. The J7's dynamic range is nothing to write home about, and that tends to cause detail in the shadows now and then. HDR mode helps remedy the situation without going overboard and ruining the contrast of the shot. The selfie camera has a huge resolution bump from last year and it produces pretty good images. However, it lacks autofocus and has a relatively shallow depth of field, so you might need a few takes to get a sharp selfie. At this price point, we don't expect 4K, and the J7 makes good use of what it has. Its full HD videos have good colors and detail, and low noise. With its excellent battery life, great screen, and decent performance, this looks like a really good mid-ranger to take on the road. Just remember to buy some expandable storage or you're gonna run out of space really fast on this thing. But here's the big question. Is this year's model really worth the bump in price over last year's? Sure, if you really want that all-metal body, the fingerprint reader, and the improved screen. But otherwise, you'll just be better off saving the cash. To get a more in-depth idea of which of the two you prefer, check out our written reviews over at gsmarena.com. See you next time!